Hi, I'm Katrina Hoffman, and my video is about homeschooling. So to homeschool or not to homeschool? That is the question. So to start off, we're just going to be talking about these three main people. So Raymond Moore, John Holt, and Michael Ferris. So they're kind of what you could call the founders of pushing homeschooling to where it is now. So the first person we are going to look at is John Holt. So who was he? John Holt was an educational theorist, and he began the homeschooling movement in 1970, and he believed that classic schools just made students compliant workers. So it wasn't actually teaching them to think for themselves, but just to read from a textbook and just memorize things so they could pass standardized testing. So a quote I have from him is, "Children who are provided with a rich and stimulating learning environment would learn what they are ready to learn when they're ready to learn it." So he's just saying if you put kids in a educational rich environment, they are going to learn it when they're ready, and they are going to understand it, and it is going to be a whole lot more effective than them reading from a textbook or sitting in their desk and listening to a lecture. So another quote I have from him is, "It's not that I feel that school is a good idea gone wrong, but a wrong idea from the word go. It's a nutty notion that we can have a place where nothing but learning happens, cut off from the rest of life." Honestly, I agree with it. Whose idea was it to take 25 students who are 8 years old and put them in a room and tell them to be quiet and read a book? That's just not how kids work. Kids want to go and play in the dirt. They want to figure out how things work. They want to learn, but they don't have the attention span to learn from a book and sit there and learn from lectures. So the next person we're going to talk about is Raymond Moore. So Raymond Moore was very similar to John Holt, and they had common dreams, so they had common goals. So Raymond Moore looked at studies and came to the conclusion that students between the ages of 8 and 12 years old actually had damages such as nearsightedness, increased juvenile delinquency, and behavioral problems due to the traditional public school. So nearsightedness, it's students with underdeveloped eyes looking at things and straining their eyes and just causing them bad eyesight, and increased juvenile delinquency and behavioral problems. When kids are always constantly told what to do, it's pretty common for them not to like that and to rebel. So he believed that homeschooling was so much more effective and benefited students more than the traditional public school. So he published a book, and it was called Better Late Than Early, sorry. And it kind of launched the modern homeschooling movement in the United States. So the premise of the book was, it was saying that from birth to ages 8 to around 10 years old, children should stay at home with their parent and just participate in regular life. So from that point in time, they're gonna learn their basics. They're gonna learn reading, writing, math, and they're gonna learn how to deal with everyday life. And by that point, then they're ready to go to school. But until then, homeschooling is the best and safest place for them. So I have a quote from him, and it is, "Homeschooling, recipe for genius. More family, less of school. More of parents, less of peers. More creative freedom, and less formal lessons." So for the first 2 points of more of family and more parents and less of peers and of school, family is really important. Family does come first, and school and friends should not be put above that. And for creative freedom and formal lessons, everybody is unique, and not everybody has or knows what their creative talent is right away. And it takes a little bit of learning and failure and succeeding for people to fully understand who they are. And they're not going to get that from sitting in their desk, listening to a lecture, or just reading something from a textbook. It's just not, they aren't going to fully come into what they are capable of by doing that. The next person we're going to talk about is Michael Ferris. And Michael Ferris founded something called the Home School Legal Defense Association, which we will talk about a little bit later in the video. But he was a homeschooling parent himself. And so obviously he was passionate about homeschooling and being able to defend it. And he was an American constitutional lawyer. And so since he was an attorney, he played a big role in the court rulings which favored in homeschooling. So in the beginning, when homeschooling was first a thing, it was legal in most states. It wasn't a big deal. But the more it went on, people didn't understand that much about it, and people didn't like it. They thought it wasn't good for kids, and it just wasn't the best way to go. But since he was a homeschooling parent, he understood everything about it, and he really pushed for the courts to rule in the favor, which really helped, especially since he was the founder of the HSLDA. So I have a quote from Michael Ferris, and it is, "If you were to choose only one method, college or apprenticeship will beat classroom instruction every time." So, and it makes sense, because if you sit in a classroom and someone just explains something to you and you believe you understand it, But if you're actually going to go do it, and you know what you're supposed to do, but your brains and hands just, they're not working together. It's just not coming to the weight that you need it or want it to. And you'll go over someone who maybe doesn't understand, like, they may not have read as much as you, but they understand the basics of it. And whatever they're doing very well. But the difference is they've practiced. They've apprenticed at it. They understand their brain and hands are working together because they know what they're supposed to be doing, on contrary to you because you just haven't practiced. And that's all it really takes. So you will learn a lot more outside of the classroom, is basically what this quote is saying. So like I said, we were going to come back and talk a little bit more about the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And it is a Christian-based nonprofit organization that was created to advance and defend rights of guardians, to direct the education of their children and protect family freedom. And it's not just fighting for religious families to be able to homeschool, it's fighting for everybody to have the right to homeschool, but they are a Christian-based organization. So it was founded in 1983 by Michael Ferris, and it has ever since been fighting for the rights of homeschoolers. So here there's just a little bit of points of why to homeschool. So my first point is family freedom. So your family will have the ability to go and take vacations and time off whenever they need. Your life is not revolving around a school calendar, it is revolving around you. And sometimes that is how people need it to be. The second point is emotional freedom. And this is really great because, you know, kids can be cruel, especially in middle school. And when kids are homeschooling, they're not in the environment where they are being bullied or teased. They don't have the social anxiety that they may have. They are at home and they're safe, basically, from all the negativity. There was a study done that showed that girls, when they started middle school, their self-esteem absolutely plummeted. It went down so far when they started middle school. But for girls who were in middle school but homeschooled, their self-esteem not only stayed the same, but actually thrived because they weren't being told that they weren't good enough. My third point is religious freedom. And it gives parents the ability to integrate religion into their kids' everyday lives, which is very important. My next point is closer family relationships. When you are with your child so much and tutoring them and just having this relationship with them and learning with them on this adventure that you guys are going on together, you're going to have closer family ties, and that's very important. My last and final point is kids are often more rested. And I know kids who wake up at 6 so they can catch the bus at 7, so they're at school at 8:30, and they don't get home till 5, and by the time they do homework and eat dinner and go to bed, and that's all they do. That's all they have time for. And when you are sleep deprived, you're more prone to depression, you're more prone to failure, you're going to be upset, you're going to not be in your best mood. But since these kids are on their own schedule, they can wake up at 8:30, be ready to go at 9, they work for a few hours, and that's their day. And they get just as much done, if not more. So now we're going to move on to the opposing reasons. So my number one reason is it is very time consuming, especially if you are parents who work full time. You definitely have to hire out tutors. It is not something that you'd be able to do because your child needs you around to teach you everything, right, that they would be getting if they were in actual school. The second point is it is very expensive. There are cheaper ways you can go about it, but I'm assuming if you always want the best for your child and you want to give them the best education that you possibly can. So it'd be a pretty penny, basically. It would cost you a decent amount. The next point is socialization. It's very common that people believe that homeschooled students they don't know how to interact in social situations, that they're just kind of awkward and they just don't know how to communicate with others properly. But maybe that's true for some people, but maybe that's just their personality, because lots of people who homeschooled are put into extracurricular activities where they're around kids their own age, where they're understanding how to work with people and how to be a team player and how to deal with bad situations and everything like that. It's not like they're just walked away in this little room given books to read off of. That's not at all what homeschooling is. So my next point is lack of facilities. And it's not a big a deal when you just are from the younger ages, but once they start taking courses such as chemistry and physics, it becomes more of a hassle, because in those courses, you're doing experiments and you need labs, you need materials, you need the chemicals, you need all the safety gloves and the goggles, and just everything that you need, right? And that is, one, it is very expensive. Two, it's going to be very hard to come about some of the chemicals that you would need. And three, you need a safe environment to practice these. And unless you have the means that you are able to provide your student or child with that, it's going to be very difficult. And a lot of people aren't able to do that. So just a few common questions. So what are the legal requirements for homeschooling? It really depends where you live. I know in Ontario, you do not require a education degree to homeschool your child, but it could be different. It is different in some places. Um, the next question is, what curricular resources are available for homeschoolers? There are so many resources available. It is a like people make billions of dollars off of this because there are so many resources one can use, and to get the curriculum, the books, the materials, just everything that you need, it is out there and it is very much available to you. I'm sorry, I accidentally put this question in twice, so we're just going to move on to the next one. And it is, how long can you homeschool for? So you can homeschool your child right from birth to the time he or she walks out the door to continue on in their lives. It is something that you can do forever. It is not recommended, though. It is recommended that people do go to high school and achieve their diploma. You can get your diploma through high schooling, but it's not through homeschooling, I'm sorry. But it is different. It's not the same. Like, colleges and universities still accept it, but it is not the same as getting an actual diploma from high school. So, just a few final thoughts. Just a few statistics. It is estimated that 1 to 2% of people in North America homeschool, which is not a lot at all, really. In Canada, it is estimated that 60,000 people homeschool. So, it's still not a huge number, but it is becoming a more acceptable alternative to actual school. So, I don't know if this video changed your thoughts on homeschooling or swayed you one way or another. I hope you learned something, and thank you for watching.